Hello everyone, welcome back to our Sky Tonight program. My name is Seth Mayo. I'm the curator of astronomy for the LOHMAN Planetarium. And in this week's episode, we're covering the dates of March 29th through April 4th. And what we'll have a chance to talk about is the moon waning after its full moon in the eastern sky. Then we'll say farewell to the constellation Andromeda and the famous galaxy inside that grouping of stars. And we'll look forward to the month of April and take a look at some of the highlights to look forward to. So let's get to it. For those who are looking for the moon this week, you have to stay up a little bit later to see it since we just went through a full moon, which occurred on March 28th, just very recently here. That was when we had that supermoon or worm moon that occurs in March. And it's the first of 4 supermoons that we have here. So anyway, we will find the moon rising starting at about 9:30 on the 29th, on Monday the 29th here, or early morning the 30th. And you'll see this is a waning gibbous. So it's more than half full, but not quite a full phase, which means you'll see a little bit of shadow, a little bit of nighttime on this side of the moon start to encroach on the day side of the moon that we see here. Now I'm going to speed up time just a little bit here, just to bring things a little higher up so we can watch the phases of the moon kind of go through its course over the week. And as we move ahead into the middle of the week here, 31st, the 1st, and eventually by Friday the 2nd, you'll see the moon looks a little smaller or a little lesser phase. And next to a large summer constellation that looks like a giant S in the sky, this is Scorpius. And the moon will be situated near the heart of the Scorpion, this red star called Antares. If we go a little bit later, we can see the moon go a little farther towards the east here as we get to Saturday. And then Sunday is when we enter into last quarter phase. That's when the moon is half full. This side of the moon in shadow, this side in darkness here. So you will have to stay up very late or get up very early in the morning to see the moon during this time. At this time of the year, we can finally say farewell to a particular fall constellation that we could see for a good part of the year. But if we look towards the northwest, you'll find very low near the horizon, of course near the setting sun here, around about 8:30, you still have a chance to see a grouping of stars that aren't the brightest, but it's pretty well known, especially an object inside this grouping of stars here. Now this depends on your latitude. We're at about 29 degrees north latitude, so if you are farther north, you'll have a little more time to see this. If you are farther south, you have less time to see this, but it's pretty much the time of year where this is setting. And what I'm talking about are the stars of Andromeda right here. Princess Andromeda, who's daughter of Cassiopeia, that very well-known constellation. It looks like a W right here. And Cassiopeia, we still have a little time left to see it, but it is very low for us here. In this part of the world, again, if you're farther north, these are partly circumpolar constellations, so you have more time of the year to find them. But right about here are the stars of Andromeda, and I'm going to kind of connect the dots here. I'll even turn on the picture to show you her, so we can say farewell to her and a very famous galaxy in this area. Now, the galaxy is really low by this time of the year, so it's really tough to see. But I do want to mention it because it's still very famous, so let's kind of zoom in. And that is the galaxy. It's named after the constellation we're talking about here. Of course, this is the Andromeda galaxy. And here it is. One of our neighboring galaxies, actually the largest in our local group of galaxies, at least in terms of size, is about twice as large as our galaxy and could hold up to 1 trillion stars inside of it. We're actually on a collision course with Andromeda, traveling towards it at 110 kilometers per second, or about 68 miles per second. We're on a collision course. Don't worry, it's going to take 4 to 5 billion years for the collision to occur, but we are getting closer to this galaxy every moment here. It's kind of interesting to think about, but there it is. Now it is really near the horizon, so when you look at things, especially fuzzy things like the Andromeda galaxy, low in the horizon, you're looking through more of the atmosphere, which really makes it hard to see it. So not the best time of year to see this, but I do want to mention that Andromeda is setting with the constellation that is named after as well. And so farewell to Andromeda and the Andromeda galaxy, one of our neighboring galaxies, and won't see it again till later in the year when these stars kind of rise up in the early morning on the opposite side of the sky in the northeast. As we look ahead for the entire month of April, we can look forward to some wonderful constellations from the previous season and ones for the spring as well. So speaking of the previous season here for the winter time in the northern hemisphere, we find in the west we still have those winter constellations visible at this time of the year. We'll find Orion the Hunter still prominently above the west after sunset here. There are the 3 stars of his belt. In front of Orion, we still have Taurus the Bull. This is the evening of the 15th of April, so the crescent moon is nestled right next to the V shape, which is the nose of Taurus. You can still see a bit of the Pleiades star cluster here, that wonderful grouping of stars, also known as the Seven Sisters there. Right in between the horns of Taurus, you'll start to see Mars visible in that area of the sky there. Mars has steadily been moving towards the east, and Mars is nestled in between the stars of Auriga with the bright star Capella and the stars of the Gemini twins here. Eventually Mars will actually move into Gemini there. And let's not forget to mention the 2 dogs of Orion still visible, the brightest star in the night sky towards the southwest, Sirius, marking the jewel of the collar or the neck of Canis Major, the greater dog, and then above it, Procyon, the small dog, also known as Canis Minor. So these winter constellations still prominent in the west. They are beginning to slide towards the western horizon, and we're seeing less and less of them, but we still have an opportunity for the month of April to see most of these constellations. Now, if we continue over to the east and southeast, there you will find many of those spring constellations that are beginning to dominate the sky this month. We've already talked about the Nemean Lion, also known as Leo, with the brightest star Rigel at the bottom of the constellation. Here the head looks like a hook or a backwards question mark, and near the bottom of that is Regulus, meaning little king, and there's the rest of Leo. And kind of slithering up kind of below Leo and higher in the sky is one of the largest constellations that you can find, and that is Hydra, the sea serpent or the sea snake here. In this area, a little bit lower, and this is still about 9 o'clock, here you'll find the stars of Virgo the Maiden with the bright star Spica right there. That's the brightest star in Virgo. Not far from that is a pretty noticeable constellation here with a shape that I usually can spot at this time of year in the southeast, and this is something called Corvus the Crow. Believe it or not, that's a crow in the sky here. And one of the brightest stars we can see in the sky, and technically the brightest star in the northern hemisphere, is the star Arcturus right here. You can find in Boötes the herdsman, and it really shines, kind of rising out of the east. You'll really see it in this part of the sky at this time of year as the brightest star. And what is great is if you find the Big Dipper, which is also conveniently high in the sky right now, the end of the handle, these stars here kind of arc to Arcturus, and that's one way to kind of remember how to find this. So you arc to Arcturus, and some people like to say you spike to Spica, the star that we find inside of Virgo. So those are wonderful spring constellations. They're rising out of the east. We can see them for most of the night, and they're the ones that are now dominating this time of the year. So look forward to them. Later this month, we can look forward to the annual Lyrid's meteor shower, which peaks on the evening of the 22nd or the morning of the 23rd. And the radiant point for the Lyrids is in the east-northeast, pretty late or real early in the morning, depending on who you are. And it's situated near a very small summer constellation called Lyra the Harp, which is what it's named after here. And inside of Lyra is that really bright star Vega, which I'm sure you've seen before. And so the Lyrid's radiant is not far from there. And this is a meteor shower that always occurs at this time of year because we were going through the debris trail of Comet Thatcher at that time. The meteor shower actually runs from the 16th through the 25th of April, but again, the peak is on the 22nd and the 23rd. So hopefully there'll be really nice weather and atmospheric conditions for this. You will be competing with a rather large moon that is in the western part of the sky, especially if you're out in the morning, but hopefully it'll be just clear enough to see some of the bright fireballs and streaks of light across the sky occurring from the Lyrids here. It can have up to 20 meteors per hour on a good one, but we'll see how it goes for this year. So let's hope for some really nice meteors for the Lyrids. And by the end of the month, on the 27th, we have a full moon and the second of 4 supermoons that have occurred in a row. Our last one, again, was on March 28th. We have another one on May 26th and another as well on June 24th. And this is when the moon is full and near its closest approach to Earth. It's called perigee. So this is also known as a perigee moon, but it's another one. These aren't super rare, but they happen every so often when the moon is a little bit bigger and a little bit brighter than usual, something that may be actually quite difficult to notice compared to an average full moon, but it does make the moon look a little bit more amplified than normal. So we have another super moon, a full moon, and also what's called a pink moon, which we'll talk about in a later episode. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of our Sky Tonight program. And if you're in the area in Daytona Beach, please visit the Museum of Arts and Sciences and the LOHMAN Planetarium. We are running shows every day. Please check our schedule online if you want any more details about our shows. And we hope to see you back here again. Thank you very much. Take care and happy stargazing.